You have to feel a bit sorry for the Volkswagen Polo GTI. You see, it's always lived a little bit in the shadow of its larger and more famous sibling, the Golf GTI. So, can this new version, based on the 6th generation of VW supermini, finally step out from the shadows? As is usually the case with hot hatchbacks, the GTI looks sportier and more aggressive than the regular Polo it's based on. With a prominent grille badge, sculpted bumpers at front and back, chrome exhaust tips, large alloy wheels and a neat little rear spoiler, all helping it stand out. It's also just as practical as the regular Polo, which is a key part of the appeal of any hot hatch. The boot will hold 351 litres of luggage, which is not far off the Golf's capacity, but bigger than the Fiesta STs. It's also a decent shape, and there are 60-40 split folding rear seats. Now, they don't lie completely flat when they're folded down, but doing that does free up over 1,100 litres of boot space, so it's definitely a practical performance car. Also helping with practicality is the fact that the new Polo is only being produced as a 5-door version. There's no 3-door version available. And that, of course, means getting in and out of the back much easier, which is great if you're intending to use this as a family car. And once you are here, you'll find a couple of Isofix child seat points. However, if you're not planning to regularly carry passengers in the back, you may feel slightly cheated out of the sportier looks that come with a 3-door. As for the rest of it, well, you've got good headroom, legroom is also good. However, you're not going to carry adults for long distances here in this centre seat, because just look at the huge transmission tunnel down there. There are 2 versions of the latest GTI to choose from, known as GTI and GTI Plus. The first gets sat-nav, climate control, 17-inch alloys, sport suspension and an electronic differential to help the front wheels grip better. While the Plus adds dark tinted glass to the rear windows, as well as LED headlights. Volkswagen's active info display dashboard, adaptive cruise control and keyless entry. In here it's just by the book VW. It's solid, it's very practical with lots of good storage, the materials used are good quality and it just feels really well put together. However, it's lacking some flair and some imagination. The GTI does try to lift the grey blandness of the standard Polo's dashboard with these coloured panels, which I'm guessing you will either love or you will hate. You also get lots of brightly coloured stitching here on the steering wheel, which feels nice with a lovely flat bottom. And of course, there is the standard tartan upholstery that you get on every VW GTI. So the Polo GTI has bucked the trend of engine downsizing that we've seen in recent years. Previous generations have used 1.4 and 1.8 litre petrol engines, and this one has the same 2 litre TSI that's found in the Golf GTI, albeit pegged back down to around 200 horsepower. Now, there's no difference at all in power output between the GTI and the GTI Plus, and VW's DSG semi-automatic is the only transmission option for now, but a manual will be added to the range in due course. Now, the Polo will do the 0 to 62 sprint in 6.7 seconds and go on to a top speed of 147 miles per hour. But it doesn't feel thrillingly quick in reality. You really get the impression that Volkswagen was keen to make sure that it didn't step on the Golf GTI's toes. It's still staying in its shadows. Now, this DSG gearbox also robs you of some of the involvement that you get in the driving process. It just doesn't feel right to me. You may well want to wait and see what the 6-speed manual is like when that arrives. Unlike out-and-out performance cars, hot hatches do need to have reasonable running costs, as many owners will be using them as their everyday car. Now, the Polo fulfills this brief pretty well, returning a claimed 47 miles to the gallon. Just a look down there, that tells me that I've been averaging 32 miles to the gallon. Quite a way off the mark, isn't it? But the problem is, though, that along with matching the Polo GTI's performance figures on paper, the Fiesta is just much more fun to drive on a twisty road. Now, this has always been an issue with previous Polo GTIs, and unfortunately, it hasn't been completely resolved here. There's no doubt about it. It's fast, but fun? I'm not convinced. Now, the ride quality is always firm on those big alloy wheels, even with the adjustable suspension in its softest setting. Now, this wouldn't be such an issue if the Polo was more enjoyable to drive, but it's a bit of a disappointment in the light of its unengaging character. You're unlikely to run out of grip or lose at a traffic light Grand Prix, But if you want to feel a real connection to your hot hatchback and be smiling broadly every time you get behind the wheel, a Fiesta ST or Mini Cooper S is a better bet. If you enjoyed this, then make sure you watch our videos for the Ford Fiesta ST or the Mini Cooper S. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram and subscribe to the channel by pressing the Carbuyer logo.